Hi, this is Tiffany Coral with EDL 855 Module 1, and this is my personal introduction. So, some personal demographics about myself. I am from Bedford, Pennsylvania. I am 27 years old. I'm married. In the right corner there, you can see my son, Easton. He is now a year old. He turned a year old in August. And also our fur baby Finley. She's a little Yorkie. They both keep us busy, me and my husband. Some things that we enjoy doing are going to the beach. We like to listen to country music and exploring the outdoors. We have a lot of property, so we like to ride four-wheelers, go for hikes, and my husband does a lot of hunting. So my work background, I work at Chestnut Ridge Middle School where I teach fourth grade math, science, and social studies. Before that, I taught alternative education and was our district's after-school site coordinator, and also previously was a preschool classroom teacher. So altogether, I have roughly 6 years of experience. This year, things are a bit different. We ended the year last year virtual. Everything was virtual. And our plan for this year, we started our elementary and middle school building both in person in classroom. So the way we did that was we added an additional teacher for third grade, and that gave third and fourth grade both the ability to social distance in the classroom. So all of our desks are 6 feet apart, as well as in the cafeteria. They measure them on a weekly basis to make sure they are still 6 feet apart. The students wear masks, and in Pennsylvania, our state has mandated they get a 10-minute break every hour. So we time our 10-minute breaks for the students, but they have to be seated and working at their desk without talking. So those are some differences. We also can't have recess together, which gives our teachers less prep time because we're used to using that as prep. But we are making it work because personally, I think being in the classroom with all of these changes is better than working at home virtually with the students. So to continue, the articles, the first thing was on growth mindsets. So a mindset is a leader's, their assumptions, their methods, basically what shapes their beliefs and their actions in their doing. There were 3 mindsets that the most successful principals have. The first is the mindset that all students can learn. So this closes the equity and opportunity gap between students, and it gives students all that rigorous work, not just your high achieving students, all the students believing that they can learn and they can do all of the work by having those high standards. Teacher collaboration over isolation was the second mindset. So that is just having teamwork and seeing that teamwork goes above individual teacher quality to make your school move forward and have growth. And the last mindset was happiness and optimism. So basically that is saying that happiness comes before success. So it's the realization that you can change, but being happy in the process. The only question I have with that as far as your job goes is you can be successful at your job and not be happy if it does not meet your cultural, ethical, or religious beliefs. I think that can affect your happiness in the process. The second portion of the article was on dispositions that many successful leaders have. So a disposition is the normal behaviors or responses or even moods that you have to a specific or event or behavior within your professional being. The first was confidence. So being confident, definitely I can see how you want your leader or successful leaders have that. So that is being sure that you are standing for what you believe in, even if you have critics, which every leader has a critic, no matter how good they are. And in the process, you're ensuring equity and success of all your students and school, as well as your staff. Next is risk takers and being decisive. So that is not being afraid of failure and learning through action. Next is being that learner. So no matter how much you think you know, there's always more to learn. So continuing to be updated on journals and educational books and articles, going to conferences and workshops, and then not only learning that information, but then putting it into practice by teaching others. Empathetically assertive would be next. And that is basically having the balance of patience and persistence. So, this can also be seen as having emotional intelligence, but knowing that relationships need to be built and every situation is special in itself and you need to act accordingly. Sense of humor. So, this one was the one that stood out to me as maybe not necessarily the most important of the ones that were discussed, just because I have worked with administrators that really didn't have a sense of humor, but I think they were really good at their job. But they said that sense of humor helps to relieve tension and conflict or conflictual situations, or to increase your positive interaction, and also being able to find humor in challenging situations. I don't know if this works necessarily for older staff or faculty. I feel like those that I've worked with definitely didn't always have a sense of humor, but that's what the research suggested. Practices was next. So by being able to focus and prioritize, so the ability to say no, that's something that I definitely think is important as an administrator in prioritizing your goals. Next is examining feedback and data. So not only collecting the data, but using it in a resourceful and impactful way. Again, they mentioned emotional intelligence, so treating people with the respect and dignity that you would value and if the way you were treated. And the second article was on principles of ethical leadership. So having personal courage to advocate for students and the policies that you believe in. You need to have the public interest ahead of your own. So whatever your school and community needs comes before what you want. Having self-control, self-discipline, and integrity in building of relationships of respect. Task and employee centeredness. So again, that kind of goes back to having the personal courage to make decisions and advocate for your students, as well as your staff. Recognizing talent. So if you need to move someone to promote their excellence, then that is what you would need to do. Requiring high ethics from everyone, so not only your staff but your community as well. I think that one would definitely be hard to do because it's hard to control what your students, even your staff and your community does outside of the school building. Having sensitivity and understanding, so having ethical, educational, and institutional qualities for all of your students, not just some. And finally, inclusiveness, so gaining that trust and belonging of all stakeholders, not just most. So my personal critique of myself, as far as mindsets go, I think that I do a great job of being that optimistic teacher and hopefully leader, and believing that every student can achieve. In my classroom, I have high standards for all my students and having that rigor for all of my students, not just some. Under dispositions, some things that I think that I could work on is understanding that no matter how good you are at your job, you're always going to have that critic, and being able to take risks and knowing that it's okay to fail. I strive for excellence always, but failure is part of the learning process. And I think that goes along with building up your confidence as well as learning and continuing to grow. And I think something else that I could work on is having humor in stressful situations. Sometimes I do get stressed. I mean, having a 1-year-old, a family, doing grad school, and I'm working in the classroom as well as tutoring still for the after school program can be overwhelming at times, and just laughing at the chaos. Next, under practices, gaining that confidence and ability to say no to things. I tend to try to please everyone, and as a leader, sometimes that doesn't always happen, but you do your best. I think something our district needs to work on is not only collecting data, we do that, but using it in a manner that helps our district and helps our students and staff grow, as well as making sure we end every conversation on a positive note. I believe I do that, but some of the staff within our school tends to leave things on a negative note at times. Under principles of leadership, something that our district needs to work on, and as a future leader I want to work on, is making sure we include all stakeholders in decision making. Right now, it's pretty much up to our administrators and our school board. They don't really let anyone else in on the input. Something else I think our district could work on, as a future leader I plan to do, is to make sure I am promoting our staff's talents, and when someone should be moved for the betterment of not only the staff member but the students, it needs to be done, even if there's other changes that need to take place in the process. And also making sure our policies and practices are up to date to promote all students, with our ever-changing student population. That's something that definitely needs to be focused on, and knowing that overall that trust takes time to gain. It doesn't happen overnight with staff as a new leader. Educational success and well-being of all. So to continue, some overall outcomes I found is from the research is that research suggests that common mindsets, dispositions, and practices of highly effective school leaders create highly effective schools. So in the process of doing the things mentioned, you're creating a highly effective school in the process. I think this is because positivity is contagious. Being motivated motivates others, and advocating for all includes all, therefore they're buying in. As well as knowing that you are creating your own limitations. So basically, the sky is the limit. A quote that I found to be beneficial from the research was, schools are uniquely charged with not only affecting the people who walk through the doors every day, but the transitionatory nature of the population means that administrators and staff have that much more of a responsibility to execute their jobs ethically. Solid ethical practices are inspiring to followers, earning respect for instructional authority and leading by example. So you are in charge of your school, you're leading your school, you are the coach of your school. So the ethical practices that you use, your staff, students, and community will follow in turn. My standards there, as well as my standard correlation. So this assignment demonstrated correlation to the standard by emphasizing on professional dispositions, as well as how to collaborate to gain trust. What was relevant? This assignment was relevant to my current learning because it showed me that creating that professional and welcoming environment is essential, and it allows our district to continue to grow and learn, as well as being sure in the process to understand that dispositions, practices, and other ethical principles can be learned and developed. They are not just given. And my overall reflection of my assignment is to make sure as a school leader that I am making decisions that are inclusive of all students. I have all students in mind at all times. As an educational leader, I am that forefront of my school, and I need to make sure I'm making respectful and ethical decisions in the process. And finally is my works cited. Thank you very much.